Welcome.
Hi.
Marine, in our briefing conversation, you said that you want to make nature an equal actor with equal rights, almost like a board member with decision-making power, and that you want to use the law to fight for the rights of nature. Quite generally, can you elaborate a little on that?
So I have to say, I spent the last 7 years of my life having to fight against gigantic gold mines in French Guiana, oil platforms, offshore oil platforms, and now primary root biomass power plants. So there is one thing in common between all these industrial projects. And this one thing is common is that they are all legal. They are all legally destroying nature. And as a jurist, as a lawyer, I want to find other ways, other solutions, because it can be this easy to destroy nature with the impact we see today on the planet and having the free hands to do it. So I think that law has a thing to do with this. We have to think about a new law, new biomimetic laws that are corresponding to the functioning of our bio circles of the planet. And to find new solution, I took a step on the side. I decided to travel to French Guiana. I studied indigenous customary law. I also looked at what happened in Ecuador and all around the world where the movement for rights of nature is spreading. And actually there are a lot of lawyers, a lot of jurists that are already searching for new legal models to actually make this destruction of nature criminal and to protect nature also through a new legal system.
So you're saying we're in a system where there's laws that allow you legally to destroy nature. I'm wondering, can you help us understand if there is, and I'm sure there is, but maybe on a more global level and general level, what are the existing laws that protect nature? How do they work? Maybe 1 or 2 examples, and which ones are maybe missing? So what's the legal body, the architecture that we're looking at?
Actually, we look at a legal system that is based on what is the relationship of use we have to nature. The model of law, of environmental law, is structured in resources. We protect resources. We do not protect nature as a living entity. We do not protect the other entities for themselves. We protect them because we want to use them in return. And that's, for me, the global problem that is actually destroying the matrix at the core. Because now we see that our legal system is authorizing every action we do without analyzing it through these limits of our ecosystem. It's like a computer program, you know, because a law is like the code of a program, and every action that is authorized by the code is generating an action. And if you have this code, like we have today, that is not regarding to planetary boundaries, then you think that the program can just act and act on its own. But now the ecological crisis, the climate change, is reminding us that there is a missing line in our code. And this missing line is actually the planetary boundaries, so that it makes it all circular, that it makes it all reusable, that what we consider today as a waste becomes a resource. And that is what law needs. It needs a focus on how the planet is functioning, and it must reinvent itself based on the laws of nature.
Wonderful. Vanessa Nakate, a climate activist from Uganda and the pioneer of Fridays for Future in her country and in East Africa, in a panel yesterday, said that to the question of what can we all do, she said, if you're a teacher, teach about the climate crisis. If you're a doctor, get involved. If you're a scientist, get involved. I think you would probably agree that if you are a lawmaker and a lawyer, get involved, and I think that's what Wild Legal, your organization, is doing at its core. Explain to us a little, quite practically, how you channel all those rather meta-level thoughts about law into a concrete mission of your wonderful organization. Talk to us a little about Wild Legal, please.
So Wild Legal is a very young NGO, but it was born on the idea that we need to have a school for all these new methods, all this new legal system, because the most basic problem we have is that it's unknown for the public. And so we have to teach it, we have to transform this information actually in a new cultural wave that is really, you know, announcing a new civilization. So our problem has to be solved by transforming this very niche information, this very unknown or very technical aspects of law into something that is really common sense and that everyone can work with. So for us, it's using law, but also make it accessible for the public, because we think that it's not only lawyers that can help on this. Every citizen has to know its rights to defend itself in front of the law, in front of the administration. So if you want to fight against pollutions, if you want to fight against illegal activities or industries, you need to have the law on your side, and you need to know how to use law. So for us, of course, we speak also to law students, to lawyers, to judges, but we really want to make sure that every citizen that wants to engage to protect the rights of nature can do it.
Yeah, wonderful. So the way I understood it was that on the one hand, you do open source all of this knowledge, you aggregate it, you make it accessible to the public to kind of equip us with the knowledge and the tools that we all need, and particularly lawyers. But on the other hand, you also get quite practical in your work, where you actually incubate legal cases, legal fights, legal procedures to protect the environment. And I'm wondering if you could maybe walk us through a case, an example, maybe in Guyana, which I understood is a focus of your work, or an area that you focus on. Make it very visible for us. What's sort of the steps, what happens behind the scenes, and how do you do this?
So actually we work with a lot of different persons. We work with NGOs, we work with citizens, but we also work with municipalities, elected representatives, with parks, reserves, because now there is really a shift in our society. And people, where 7 years ago we were really laughed at when we talked about giving rights to rivers or to mountains and forests, people were very shocked about the idea. And now they are not asking, why are we wanting to do this, but how should we do this? Give us some, you know, some concrete. How would you do this in law? How would you pass it, for example, in charters for parks, for regional parks? How would you inscribe it in urbanism planification? So our goal is to give these advices to local actors so that they can really shift and use rights of nature as a tool, as a concrete tool to reorder somehow the planification in our territories, or to act concretely against new destructions of nature. So we, for example, in French Guiana, we help indigenous people that are living inside the territories, and they're actually facing a huge mercury pollution because of illegal gold mining. We help them go to court and defend themselves, because their rights, their human rights, and most basic and fundamental rights like health, like living, is completely destroyed because of that industry, because of that gold. And so we are using rights of nature to defend not only human rights, but really the rivers as a community of living, as a community of life for every entity, human and non-human, that is depending intrinsically from the health of this ecosystem.
So in a way, you're also using proxy laws, if I understand correctly, that would touch upon human rights, health issues, etc., to then make the case that the environment and nature should be protected. Do you see cases where nature in and out of itself, which we should obviously all value a lot more than we do, where they are being given rights? Have you heard cases or scenarios or examples where a sentence was being said, this river has a right, and on the basis of that, purely on that, no humans even involved, we cannot destroy it? Is that happening, and what sort of is the developments there?
A lot, all over the world, and that's what's amazing, because the first time the idea was expressed was in the 70s. And it took a lot of time to actually become a real rule of law. The first country to recognize rights of nature was Ecuador in 2008. And Ecuador decided to put inside the constitution the fact that Pachamama, Mother Earth, has rights, and that every citizen of Ecuador can act and go to court to defend the rights of Mother Earth. And that led to 50 jurisprudences for now, and every year we have new ones. And that movement spread from Ecuador to the US. There are 50 municipalities in the US already acknowledging rights of nature. In Uganda, you have a law for rights of nature, but also in New Zealand, and it's spreading all over the world. We had last year the first European country stepping also inside this movement. It was Spain in September 2022. Spain is the first country that bring a law that is recognizing the rights of the Mar Menor, which was impacted by agricultural activities, by urbanism planning, and who has now rights, and who is not anymore a subject, an object of conservation, but a subject in itself with its own rights. And that will lead the local guardians to go to court or to go to the administration when there is a violation of the rights of this laguna. So it's spreading all over the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. So even in cases where you are not at hand and while legal isn't involved, that happens. Can you give us an idea of sort of something very concrete that you are working on at the moment? What are sort of things that are on your agenda? What is happening in your team? Cases? Areas of focus?
With my team, we work a lot on rivers, especially because there are so many droughts, and this crisis of water will really be a focus for us, because it will lead to major crises and also to major confrontation. So for us, it's also a questioning of maintaining peace in our countries, in our territories, because water is a motive of war in a lot of territories, in a lot of countries. So we want to use rights of nature also to be somehow a tool to de-escalate, to recreate also communication between parties. I think about peasants, industrial cities that have to share, but also have to think about planetary boundaries. And because we are here, one point which is really important for me as a focus is also how do you implement rights of nature inside companies? How do you take nature to a board of a company? How do you represent the voice of animals, of water, of rivers or of forests inside a company strategy development? And that nowadays a real challenge, because if you have only people deciding for humans what is good for us, and you don't take in account the voice of nature because you just hear to it, you just have the ability, you need to create the ability to hear the voice of nature inside boards, inside strategic councils. And so we have to appoint guardians. And like, you know, in France, in 1936, there was a huge mobilization, a huge movement, which name is Front Populaire. It was the first time that workers had the possibility to name representatives inside governance and administration of companies. And so nowadays we are facing this mobilization, this climate mobilization. I think this is a huge opportunity to say nature needs representatives inside boards, inside strategic council, and that's a word for every person here who is maybe a board member, who is maybe inside a company. If you see an open door for this idea, please share.
Yeah. I've even heard of some progressive social enterprises that leave in board meetings a chair empty as a symbol to make sure that they don't forget that there is another actor. in the room, one that is all of us and should be all the time there. Very, very shortly, last statement. If we wanted to get involved in your work, support you, do something, how would that look like? What can we do for you?
A lot. Now, sharing and also read about rights of nature, because education is really the key. Having the information, knowing the law is extremely helpful because you can engage. Our main goal is really to pass the word and to give the tools, but you have to take it. We are not lawyers, you know, we don't want to represent everyone here. We want to educate, we want to give the tools because everyone has to act on its own. We can't be everywhere. So it's really that. So we published a little manual. There are a lot of videos also on our website to educate, to have these informations. And please share, spread the word, act at your level, inside your community, your network, and share it with your leaders that you know, and that will be really a huge help for us, because it's all a question about raising a new culture, a new relationship to nature that goes also without, that can't go without a large transformation.
Wow. I would have 50 more questions. We're unfortunately at the end of the time of this part of the session, but Marine, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the work that you do. It's very exciting. I'm going to surely follow up, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you very much for being with us at ChangeNOW. Thank you.